The massive windows of the Stellar Dream space cruiser gleamed in the morning sunlight at Seoul Spaceport. Captain Han stood tall in his crisp black uniform, watching the preparations for today's special flight. His ship wasn't just any vessel. It was the pride of Kim Spacelines, the biggest space transport company in Asia. "Captain, the VIP suite is ready," said Ji-soo, walking up to him with her tablet. She was the head of customer service, known for her attention to detail. "Big Shaq will be arriving in 20 minutes. Captain Han nodded, his eyes scanning the departure board. The Mars-Earth route was the most profitable journey in their schedule, and today's flight was extra special. How many seats did he book in the VIP section? "All of them," Ji-soo replied with a smile. "He bought out the entire VIP cabin. Said he needed the space for his team, and some quiet time to work on his new music." The Stellar Dream was special in many ways. Its VIP section had only 10 suites, each bigger than most Earth apartments. The walls could become transparent to show the stars, and each suite had its own gravity controls. Passengers could choose Earth normal gravity or experience the fun of floating in space. "Sun high, status report," Captain Han called out to the ship's eye. A gentle blue light pulsed in the ceiling. "All systems are operating at 100%, Captain," the AI responded in a friendly voice. "Weather conditions are perfect for launch. Station temperature is maintained at 22 degrees Celsius. Security systems are active and monitoring." Just then, CEO Kim's face appeared on the main screen. The elderly businessman had built Kim Spacelines from nothing, turning it into the most respected name in space travel. "Captain Han, is everything ready for our special guest?" "Yes, sir. The VIP section is prepared according to Mr. Shaq's preferences. We've stocked his favorite snacks and programmed his preferred music playlist." CEO Kim smiled. "Excellent. Remember, Captain, on my ships, every passenger is treated with equal respect, no matter where they're from or what they look like. That's how we built our reputation." "Of course, sir. Our anti-discrimination policies are strictly enforced." The screen went dark, and Captain Han turned to see a fleet of sleek black vehicles pulling up to the private entrance. Big Shaq had arrived, his tall frame easily visible even from a distance. He wore a simple black suit, but his presence commanded attention. His team of 5 people followed him, carrying equipment cases and bags. Ji-soo stepped forward to greet them. "Welcome aboard the Stellar Dream, Mr. Shaq. We're honored to have you with us." Big Shaq smiled warmly. "Thank you. I've heard great things about this ship. Looking forward to experiencing it myself." As they walked through the ship's main corridor, other passengers stopped to stare. The Stellar Dream's interior was impressive. Soft lights glowed from the curved walls, and the floor seemed to sparkle with tiny stars. The air smelled fresh, with a hint of pine trees. "Your entire section is ready," Ji-soo explained as they reached the VIP area. "We've installed the recording equipment you requested in Suite 1. Each suite has its own entertainment system, food synthesizer, and virtual reality setup." Big Shaq nodded appreciatively. "This is perfect. Much better than those old planes we used to fly in on Earth." Captain Han watched as his guest settled in. Everything was running smoothly, just as it should. The Stellar Dream was the future of space travel, comfortable, safe, and welcoming to everyone. Little did he know that this routine luxury flight was about to become the biggest news story of the year. In the control room, First Officer Park was running final checks when he noticed something unusual on the passenger manifest. A last-minute booking had come through for the Wilson family. They were frequent travelers, but something about their booking history caught his eye. "Sunhai," he called to the AI. "Can you show me the Wilson family's previous travel records?" Accessing records, Sunhai responded. After a moment, she added, "Warning. Multiple incidents reported on other carriers. Would you like me to display the details?" Park frowned. "Yes, please show me." As he read through the records, his concern grew. The Wilsons had a history of demanding special treatment and making complaints about other passengers. He decided to alert Captain Han. Meanwhile, in his VIP suite, Big Shaq was already working. The sound of new beats filled the room as he tested the recording setup. His team moved efficiently around him, setting up equipment and organizing their schedule for the 3-day journey to Earth. "The acoustics in here are amazing," he said to no one in particular, adjusting some controls on his mixing board. "We might actually finish the album during this trip." Outside the ship, the spaceport was buzzing with activity. The regular passengers were boarding through the main entrance, their luggage being carefully loaded by robots. The sun was climbing higher in the sky, making the Stellar Dream's silver hull shine like a diamond. Station Manager Lee was overseeing the final boarding procedures when his tablet beeped with an urgent message. He read it quickly, his expression turning serious. The Wilson family had just arrived at the VIP entrance, even though they weren't booked in that section. "Jisoo," he called over the comm system, "we might have a situation developing at the VIP entrance. Could you meet me there?" As Jisoo hurried to the entrance, she checked the family's booking details. They had regular first-class tickets, not VIP suites. Something told her this shift wasn't going to be as smooth as she had hoped. Captain Hand stood at the bridge window, watching the last of the luggage being loaded. The Stellar Dream would be launching in exactly 1 hour. Everything was perfect. The weather, the systems, the crew. He had no way of knowing that he was about to face the biggest challenge of his career, one that would test everything he believed about fairness and respect in the space age. The ship's AI continued its quiet work, recording everything as it always did. Every conversation, every movement, every decision was stored in its memory banks. Sun High had been programmed with one primary directive: protect the truth. In the next few hours, that simple directive would prove more important than anyone could have imagined. As the boarding process continued, the massive engines of the Stellar Dream hummed softly, ready for their journey to Earth. High above, the morning stars were fading, but new ones waited for them in the endless black of space. It was going to be an interesting flight, in ways that no one could have predicted. Karen Wilson marched through the spaceport's VIP entrance like she owned it. Her heels clicked against the polished floor as her husband Tom and their 3 children followed behind. They had just arrived from their first-class shuttle, and Karen was not happy with what she saw on her booking details. "Excuse me," she called out to Station Manager Lee, who was checking something on his tablet. "There seems to be a terrible mistake with our seating arrangement." Lee looked up with a professional smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Wilson. How may I help you?" "We are supposed to be in the VIP section," Karen said, pulling up her ticket on her phone. "Instead, we're placed in regular first class. This is unacceptable for my family's status." Jisoo had just arrived at the scene and heard the exchange. She quickly checked the booking system on her tablet before speaking. "Mrs. Wilson, our records show that you booked first-class tickets. The VIP section is currently occupied by another party who reserved the entire cabin." Karen's face turned red. "And who could possibly need an entire VIP section? That's ridiculous." Just then, the sound of cameras clicking drew everyone's attention. Through the large windows, they could see Big Shaq walking across the boarding bridge with his team, heading to his suite. Several passengers were taking pictures, excited to see the famous musician. "That's who's in our VIP section." Tom Wilson stepped forward, his voice rising. "You gave all the best seats to him." Lee kept his voice calm and professional. "Mr. Shaq booked the entire VIP section weeks in advance, sir. He's using it as a recording studio during the journey." "This is outrageous." Karen's voice echoed through the terminal. "We are a respectable family. We've traveled first class our whole lives. And you're telling me we have to sit in regular seats while some rapper takes up the whole VIP area?" The Wilson children looked embarrassed, trying to shrink behind their luggage. Other passengers had stopped to watch the scene unfold. Sun High, the ship's AI, was recording everything. Its cameras caught every expression, every word, and every gesture. In the VIP suite, Big Shaq's neural implant was doing the same thing, automatically saving the raised voices that carried through the ship's corridors. "Mrs. Wilson," Jisoo tried again, "our first-class cabin is extremely comfortable. You'll have excellent service and—" "I don't care about your first class," Karen interrupted. "This is about principle. My husband is a successful businessman. We deserve those VIP suites more than some entertainer." First Officer Park had come down to investigate the commotion. He stood quietly near the entrance, watching and recording everything in his official log. Years of experience told him this situation could escalate quickly. Inside his suite, Big Shaq heard the noise and opened his door slightly. He could see the scene clearly from his position, but chose to remain quiet, letting his neural implant capture everything. "I want to speak to your manager," Karen demanded, pulling out her phone. "And I'm going to post about this disgraceful treatment on social media. Do you know how many followers I have?" Lee remained professional but firm. "Ma'am, I am the station manager. Our booking policy is very clear. Mr. Shaq paid for and reserved the entire VIP section. We cannot and will not ask him to give up his legitimate reservation." "This is discrimination," Tom Wilson shouted, his face turning as red as his wife's. "You're giving preferential treatment to him because he's famous." Jisoo stepped forward, her voice steady. "Sir, with all due respect, the only person attempting to discriminate here is you. Our policy is first come, first served, regardless of who the passenger is." The Wilsons' teenage daughter tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mom, please, this is embarrassing. Can we just go to our seats?" But Karen wasn't finished. She pulled out her phone and started recording. "Everyone's going to hear about this. How you disrespected a proper family and gave all the best seats to someone like him." The security cameras caught her gesture toward Big Shaq's suite, and Sunhee's emotion recognition software tagged it as derogatory. The AI immediately filed it in a special incident report. Captain Han received an alert about the disturbance and watched the feed from the bridge. His jaw tightened as he heard the Wilsons' thinly veiled racist comments. He opened a direct line to CEO Kim's office, following protocol for serious incidents. Big Shaq finally stepped out of his suite, his tall frame commanding immediate attention. The Wilsons fell silent as he approached, his expression calm but serious. "Is there a problem here?" he asked quietly, looking between the family and the staff. Karen Wilson straightened her designer jacket, suddenly switching to a sweet tone. "Oh, Mr. Shaq, we were just discussing a seating arrangement. Surely you don't need the entire VIP section. We would be happy to share it with you." Big Shaq raised an eyebrow, his neural implant still recording. "Ma'am, I booked the entire section because I'm working on my new album during this flight. My team needs the space for equipment." "But surely," Tom Wilson started, but Big Shaq held up a hand. "I heard everything you said," he stated calmly. "Every word, every implication, every gesture." He tapped the side of his head where his neural implants sat. "And I think it's time I made a call of my own." The Wilson family didn't know it yet, but that call would change everything. As Big Shaq pulled out his phone, Jisoo noticed a small smile on his face. She had worked in customer service long enough to know that smile meant something big was about to happen. First Officer Park quietly updated his log. Incident in progress. Timestamp 9:47. Full recording saved. Awaiting further instructions. The spaceport's regular activities continued around them, but everyone near the VIP entrance knew they were watching something important unfold. In less than an hour, this scene would be the talk of every space station from Earth to Mars. Sunhee's cameras continued their silent watch, recording every moment of what would soon become a landmark case in space travel history. The AI's processors were already calculating the probability of various outcomes, and every scenario pointed to one conclusion. The Wilsons had made a very, very big mistake. Big Shaq walked calmly back to his suite, phone in hand. The Wilson family watched him go, their faces showing a mix of anger and confusion. They didn't know that he wasn't just a famous musician. He was also one of the largest shareholders in Kim Spacelines. Karen Wilson was already busy with her own phone, typing furiously. Within minutes, her social media post started spreading. Stranded at Seoul Spaceport. At Kim Spacelines, forcing proper families into regular seats while entire VIP section goes to one passenger. This is what's wrong with space travel today. #boycott Kim Spacelines. Her followers started sharing the post, but they weren't getting the reaction she expected. Many people asked why she felt entitled to someone else's paid reservation. Others pointed out that proper families seemed like a strange choice of words. Inside his office on the 200th floor of Kim Spacelines Tower, CEO Kim watched multiple screens showing different angles of the incident. Sun Hai, the ship's AI, had already sent him complete footage from every security camera. His face remained calm, but his eyes showed deep disappointment. "Play the neural recording from Mr. Shaq," he commanded his office AI. The recording started playing, showing everything from Big Shaq's perspective. The crystal-clear audio caught every word, every tone, and every hidden meaning in the Wilsons' complaints. The neural implant's emotional analysis software had tagged each instance of discriminatory language and behavior. CEO Kim pressed a button on his desk. "Get me Station Manager Lee and Captain Han on a secure line." Meanwhile, Tom Wilson had started calling news stations. "You won't believe what's happening at Seoul Spaceport," he said to one reporter. "The entire crew is hostile to Earth tourists. They're giving special treatment to celebrities while discriminating against regular passengers." Several Earth-based news channels picked up the story, but they made a crucial mistake. Without fact-checking, they ran with headlines like "Chaos at Seoul Spaceport," "Passengers claim discrimination," and "Celebrity treatment gone too far." First Officer Park watched all this unfold on his tablet's newsfeed. He turned to Jisoo, who was updating the incident report. "They're trying to control the narrative," he said quietly, "but they don't know about our evidence." Inside his VIP suite, Big Shaq finished his call with CEO Kim. He smiled as he watched his team set up the recording equipment. Then he made another call, this one to his own media team. "Release the neural recording," he told them. "Full audio and video, with emotional analysis tags. Send it to every major news outlet in the solar system." The ship's AI, Sun Hai, detected increased communication activity throughout the spaceport. Her processors worked at high speed, monitoring social media reactions, news coverage, and passenger communications. She started compiling a comprehensive timeline of events, complete with video evidence from every angle. Karen Wilson was still standing in the terminal, now surrounded by her family and a small crowd of curious onlookers. She was recording another video for her social media when her phone suddenly buzzed with a notification. Her face went pale as she saw the headline. "Breaking news. Full neural recording of spaceport incident released." The video was spreading faster than her post had. People could now see and hear everything that had happened, complete with AI analysis of the discriminatory undertones in her words and behavior. The neural recording even caught moments she thought no one had noticed, her dismissive gestures, her condescending tone, her attempts to intimidate the staff. Tom Wilson's phone started ringing. It was his company's PR department, and they weren't happy. The neural recording had caught him clearly suggesting that his family deserved better treatment because of their background. His company's stock price had already dropped 2 points. Station Manager Lee received a priority message from CEO Kim. The text was simple: "Initiate Protocol 7A, full authority granted." Protocol 7A was something Lee had learned about during his training, but had never had to use. It was Kim Spaceline's highest-level response to discriminatory incidents. His hand shook slightly as he entered his authorization code. In the VIP suite, Big Shaq was watching the situation unfold on multiple screens. His media team had done their job well. The truth was out there now, spreading across Earth, Mars, and every space station in between. But he wasn't done yet. "Sun Hai," He called out to the ship's AI, "Please display the Kim Spaceline's shareholder registry on my screen." The AI complied, bringing up a document that would soon shock the Wilsons even more. Big Shaq's name was near the top of the list, right under CEO Kim himself. He owned 15% of the company's shares, making him one of its most important stakeholders. Captain Han received another alert on the bridge. Earth's Space Travel Authority was requesting all footage of the incident. They were particularly interested in reviewing the Wilsons' travel history for patterns of similar behavior. Jisoo's tablet kept buzzing with notifications. Social media was exploding with reactions to the neural recording. The hashtag boycott Kim Spacelines had been completely overtaken by hashtag truth in space and hashtag no discrimination in space. People were sharing their own stories of encountering entitled passengers like the Wilsons. The Wilson children had retreated to a corner of the terminal, trying to become invisible. Their mother's attempt to gain sympathy on social media had backfired spectacularly. Their father's business reputation was crumbling in real time, and they still didn't know the worst was yet to come. First Officer Park noticed a subtle change in the terminal's lighting. The AI was initiating security protocols, its cameras focusing on the Wilson family with even more intensity. He knew from experience that Sunhai only did this when major corporate action was imminent. In his office, CEO Kim finished reviewing all the evidence. He looked out his window at the busy space lanes above Seoul, where thousands of ships carried passengers of all backgrounds across the solar system. He had built his company on a foundation of respect and equality. Now it was time to show everyone exactly how serious he was about protecting those values. He pressed another button on his desk. "Sunhai, prepare the termination documents and contact our legal department. It's time to make an example of this incident." The AI's response was immediate. "Documents prepared, sir. Legal team standing by. Would you like me to begin the blacklisting procedure as well?" CEO Kim nodded slowly. "Yes, full spectrum. Let's make sure this never happens on any spaceflight again." Back at the spaceport, the Wilsons had no idea that their attempt to bully their way into the VIP section was about to become a landmark case in space travel history. Big Shaq's next call would set in motion a chain of events that would change space travel policies forever. The main screen in Seoul Spaceport's control center lit up with CEO Kim's face. His expression was serious as he looked at the gathered staff. Station Manager Lee, Captain Han, First Officer Park, and Jisoo stood together, waiting for his words. The Wilson family had been moved to a private waiting area, still unaware of what was coming. "I have reviewed all the evidence," CEO Kim began, his voice clear and firm. "The neural recordings from Mr. Shaq, the security footage from Sunhai, and the social media posts made by Mrs. Wilson. There is no room for doubt about what happened here today." He paused, looking at each staff member in turn. For 60 years, Kim Spacelines has carried passengers between Earth and Mars. We have never discriminated based on fame, wealth, or background. We will not start now. In the private waiting area, Karen Wilson was still trying to control the situation. She had called her lawyer, but he wasn't giving her the answers she wanted to hear. The neural recording had made their position impossible to defend. "But they can't just deny us our rights," she complained into her phone. "We're loyal customers." Her lawyer's voice was tired. "Mrs. Wilson, you have no case. The neural recording shows clear discriminatory intent. Mr. Shaq's reservation was legal and proper. And now I'm seeing reports that he owns 15% of Kim Spacelines." Tom Wilson's face went white as he heard this last part. He grabbed his wife's phone. "He owns what?" Back in the control center, CEO Kim was giving instructions. "Station Manager Lee, please implement Protocol 7A immediately." Lee nodded and began typing on his tablet. Around the spaceport, screens started displaying a new message. "Attention all passengers and staff. Stand by for an important company announcement." Sunhee's voice came through the station speakers, clear and professional. Security teams to waiting area 12. Prepare for Protocol 7A implementation. Big Shaq watched everything on the screens in his suite. His media team had set up their equipment but wasn't recording music now. Instead, they were documenting every moment of what was about to become a historic event in space travel. "Sir," one of his team members said, "the video has reached 1 billion views. The public response is overwhelmingly supportive of Kim Spaceline's stance." Captain Han stepped forward in the control center. "Sir, should we delay the launch?" CEO Kim shook his head. "No, the Stellar Dream will depart on schedule. But there will be some changes to the passenger list." Jisoo's tablet buzzed with new instructions. She read them quickly, her eyes widening. "Sir, are you sure about this? This goes beyond anything we've done before." "Absolutely sure," CEO Kim replied. "Discrimination has no place in space travel. Today, we'd make that crystal clear to everyone in the solar system." Security officers approached the private waiting area where the Wilson family sat. Their uniforms were spotless, their faces professional but firm. Through the glass walls, other passengers watched with great interest. Station Manager Lee walked in first, followed by the security team. He held his tablet formally in front of him. "Mr. and Mrs. Wilson," he began, "I have been authorized to deliver this notice directly from CEO Kim." Karen Wilson stood up, trying to look important. "Finally, someone's going to fix this ridiculous situation." "Indeed, we are," Lee continued, his voice steady. He began reading from his tablet. "By the authority of Kim Spaceline's Corporate Policy 7A, and with the direct approval of both CEO Kim and major shareholder Michael Big Shaq Williams, the following actions are now in effect." The Wilson family listened in growing horror as Lee read through the list. 1. Your tickets on today's flight are hereby canceled. Full refund will be processed to your account. 2. Your Kim Spaceline's frequent traveler status is permanently revoked. 3. You are banned from all Kim Spaceline's flights and facilities for life. 4. Your actions have been reported to the Interplanetary Travel Authority for review. 5. Your attempt to use social media to spread false accusations against our company will be addressed by our legal department. Tom Wilson tried to interrupt, but Lee held up his hand and continued. "Furthermore, Mr. Shaq has authorized me to inform you that he is filing a personal discrimination complaint with the Space Travel Rights Commission. As a major shareholder in Kim Spaceline's, he is also calling for an emergency board meeting to strengthen our anti-discrimination policies even further." The Wilson children sank deeper into their seats, mortified. Their parents stood frozen, finally understanding the magnitude of their mistake. In his VIP suite, Big Shaq made one final call. This time, it was to his foundation that supported equal rights in space travel. "Double the funding," he told them, "and start a new program specifically focused on fighting discrimination in space transport." Sunhee's cameras recorded everything. The shock on the Wilsons' faces, the professional calm of the staff, the satisfied nods of other passengers watching through the glass walls. The AI calculated that this incident would be referenced in corporate training materials for at least the next decade. First Officer Park updated his log one last time. Protocol 7A implemented. Wilson family escorted from premises. All evidence secured. Crew responses exemplary. Captain Han returned to the bridge, where his crew waited for departure instructions. The Stellar Dream's engines hummed softly, ready for their journey. In the VIP section, Big Shaq and his team had finally started setting up their music equipment, the earlier drama already becoming another story in their travels. Jisoo watched the Wilsons being escorted to the public shuttle area, their designer luggage rolling behind them. She thought about how quickly everything had changed for them, how one moment of showing their true nature had cost them so much. The spaceport's main screen now showed a new message. Kim Spaceline's stands firmly against discrimination. All passengers deserve respect. All spaces are equal spaces. CEO Kim made one final statement before ending the video call. "Let this be a lesson to everyone. In space, There's no room for prejudice. We're all just travelers among the stars. As the Wilson family disappeared into the crowded terminal, Sun Hee's final recording caught Karen Wilson's last words to her husband. "I should have never made that social media post." The AI tagged this moment with a simple label: Lesson learned. 1 month after the incident at Seoul Spaceport, CEO Kim stood at his office window, looking out at the busy space lanes. His tablet displayed the latest company reports, and the numbers made him smile. Kim's Spaceline's stock had risen by 40% since the incident. Their strong stand against discrimination had earned them respect across the solar system. In the main terminal of the spaceport, a new training session was taking place. Ji-soo, recently promoted to head of customer relations, stood before a group of new employees. Behind her, a large screen showed footage from what was now called the Wilson incident. "This is how we handle discrimination at Kim's Spacelines," she explained to the attentive group. "It doesn't matter if the passenger is famous or unknown, rich or poor. Everyone gets the same respect, and everyone follows the same rules." The new staff watched the neural recording, seeing how Big Shaq had handled the situation with calm dignity. They saw how the staff had remained professional, even when faced with the Wilsons' hostile behavior. The recording had become a perfect teaching tool. Captain Han, now Fleet Commander Han, walked into the training room. The new employees stood up straight, showing respect for the man who had overseen that famous day. He nodded at Ji-soo and took over the presentation. "What happened that day changed space travel forever," he said, his voice carrying authority earned from years of experience. The Wilson family thought they could use their social media influence to force their way into someone else's reserved space. They thought their background gave them special rights. They were wrong. On the screen, Sun Hee displayed the changes that had happened since the incident. The Space Travel Authority had created new anti-discrimination laws, now known as the Kim Protocols. Every space company in the solar system had to follow these rules or lose their license. The Wilson family's attempt to sue Kim Spacelines had failed completely. The neural recording and AI evidence had made their case impossible to win. They now had to take long, slow rocket flights on budget carriers because no major space line would accept them. Big Shaq's foundation had opened offices on Earth and Mars. They helped people report discrimination in space travel and made sure everyone knew their rights. The foundation's motto was simple: "Space is for everyone." In his recording studio on Mars, Big Shaq was working on his new album. The songs he had recorded during that flight on the Stellar Dream had become huge hits. One song, called "Equal Space," told the story of that day. It had stayed at #1 for 6 weeks. "The album is already platinum on both planets," his manager reported. "People love how you handled that situation. You've become a symbol of standing up against discrimination." Big Shaq nodded, adjusting some controls on his mixing board. "That's good. But the real victory is what happened after. Have you seen the latest passenger surveys?" His manager picked up a tablet and read the results. 98% of all space travelers say they feel safer now. The new anti-discrimination rules make everyone feel welcome. Back at Seoul Spaceport, First Officer Park, now Captain Park of his own ship, walked through the VIP section of a new spacecraft. The sign at the entrance had changed. It now read, "VIP section, reserved through fare booking only. All passengers welcome." Station Manager Lee had also been promoted. He now ran the entire Asian division of Kim Spacelines. His office had a plaque on the wall showing the company's updated mission statement, "Carrying humanity to the stars, with equal respect for all." Sun Hee, the AI that had recorded everything that day, had been upgraded. Now every ship in the Kim Spacelines fleet had an AI that could spot and report discrimination. They worked silently, making sure everyone followed the new rules. The story had become famous across the solar system. Schools taught it in their history classes. Business schools used it to show how companies should handle discrimination. Space academies made all their students watch the neural recording. 1 year after the incident, CEO Kim hosted a special event at Seoul Spaceport. Big Shaq was there, along with Captain Han, Jisoo, and all the other staff who had handled the situation so well. They were celebrating the success of the new anti-discrimination policies. Our company lost 5 passengers that day, CEO Kim said in his speech. The Wilson family and their old ideas about privilege. But we gained millions of new passengers who know they can trust us to treat everyone fairly. The crowd applauded as Big Shaq took the stage. He looked out at the faces of people from Earth, Mars, and every space colony in between. His voice carried the same calm strength it had shown that day. A year ago, someone thought they could use discrimination to take what wasn't theirs, he said. They thought their social media posts could hide the truth. But they learned something important that day. In space, everyone is equal. The stars don't care about your background. They shine for everyone. As if to prove his point, the huge windows of the spaceport showed a beautiful sight. The Stellar Dream was taking off, its silver hull gleaming in the sunlight. Its passengers included people from every part of human society, all traveling together among the stars. Jisoo checked her tablet one last time before heading home that evening. The day's passenger reports showed another record number of bookings. People trusted Kim's spacelines more than ever. They knew that on these ships, everyone got the same respect. In the quiet of his office, CEO Kim looked at one final report. Other space companies had copied his anti-discrimination policies. The whole industry had changed. He thought about how one incident, handled the right way, had made space travel better for everyone. The last light of day shone through his window, and far above, the first stars were appearing. Somewhere up there, ships were carrying people between the worlds, and on every ship, the message was the same. In space, there's room for everyone, except discrimination.